Alright guys, another fun painting. This is going to be one of my sketches broken down for you. So grab your supplies, and there is a link in the description box for my exact colors I'm using. If you have a more simplified palette, just use whatever you have that is closest. Now once you have your traceable transferred, we're going to jump right in with raw sienna and a lot of water. So you saw where I kind of placed it on there. And I do realize it's kind of hard to see where it's at on the Seahorse. When I do these sketches, it's different than how I do the videos for what I teach. I try to have a little bit more structure and more obvious steps when I am actually doing a video for teaching. So like I said, this is just one of my sketches for kind of when I escape the world. So letting you guys see my process. All right, so put that raw sienna just in a few of those random places, and now we're moving in with burnt sienna. And I had a decent amount of water on my brush, so it's kind of a medium burnt sienna. And for this particular Seahorse, I am utilizing the white of the paper for the what we would call the highlights on the Seahorse. And when you work with watercolor paper, or watercolors in general, you do have to plan your painting a little bit more, especially if you want to utilize the white of the paper. So very, very different than how I teach or even how I work with acrylic paint. So it's nice to just kind of stretch your brain and do the opposite of what you normally do. And then sometimes you can take some of those skills and a little bit more of that structure and discipline into what you're really comfortable with. So either way, it's just good to get diversity in what you paint. So as you can see now, I am filling up more areas on the perimeter of the Seahorse and then putting darker pigment kind of more in the middle. And to get that darker pigment, I'm using very little amount of water and more direct pigment from the cake. And the more that you play with watercolor, the more that concept will become familiar. All right, so now we're moving into orange. And again, just kind of placing it right on top of some of the burnt sienna areas. I like using a lot of pigment, so I am grabbing the pigment directly from the cake and just basically touching my brush to the canvas or to the paper. And because parts of it are still wet, it's diffusing, it's mixing with the other color. It is kind of growing in its shape. So if you are one of my first time painters, please check out some of the other watercolor tutorials that are specific for first-time painters. With this being just my sketch style, there's less structure in my delivery and my teaching ability for this one. All right, so we did clean the brush really good. We're moving to light blue or a medium blue. And I've got a good amount of water on the brush, and then I can grab directly from the cake, and it's already a medium blue. But if you need to make your pile on your plate, go right ahead and do that. Again, you can see where I'm basically just touching the tip using this pointillism method, and it grows and bleeds with the color because the paper is already wet. With watercolor painting, you learn to kind of control water, but also embrace happy accidents that may happen. So if it does something that you were not planning on, the best thing that you can do is learn to embrace it and create something new given the variables and circumstances that you are dealing with. And a lot of times it turns out really cool and you end up liking it. So when people comment about that aspect of your painting, just tell them, say, I planned that, did that on purpose, worked out great. Nice. So again, here you can see where I've left so much of the white of the paper. We will put a background color in there like you saw on the thumbnail, but leaving the white of the paper does require a bit more planning. I do want you to let your paper fully dry before you move into doing the outline. And here I am using an India ink brush pen. There is a link in the description box below and with the supplies on where to acquire this. And it's not an expensive little brush. You can use your pointy brush and black watercolor pigment, or even gouache or acrylic paint for this. So your call, and utilize what you have. Don't feel like you have to go buy brand new supplies to get creative. using what you have is a big part of the creative process, as is utilizing your power of observation, which is what you are doing while you're watching this video. You're looking to see the shape that I make, the place where I put a line, and you're mimicking that on your canvas. And the stronger your power of observation gets, the better artist you become, and I'd say the better human being, because if you're more observant, that's going to show up in your job, that's going to show up in your family life and your friendships, and people appreciate it when you are observant and something changes, especially for the better, and you give them a compliment on that. All right, so here again, we let the paper, the ink fully dry, and I'm going in with a middle flat brush and putting water on the outside of the outline of the seahorse. And I'm being very generous with the amount of water. I'm not overlapping the seahorse, so you do want to be more controlled. Do not go as fast as I'm going in this time-lapse part of the video. But you want to bring it right up next to those black lines, and again, be generous with the amount of water that's in there, because we're going to drop ink. I'm going to drop some cyan, or I think cyan or ultramarine blue. Dropping that in there. There we go. So if you don't have ink, you can actually just pick up the pigment with your brush from the cake and just touch your brush to the water, and it'll pick up the pigment and diffuse. So play with this. You can do a couple shades of blue. I was using some very high saturated ink, and that's all I will be using for this. You can go back with light pressure and water on your brush and go back and kind of fill in and kind of play with where you want the pigment to go. You can kind of slightly control it, so have fun with that. If you feel like introducing a second or third color in here, sometimes that's fun to watch them bleed, but this is the probably funnest aspect of watercolor painting, is just going, ooh, what's this going to do? Ooh, what's this color going to do? So get expressive with this section of your painting. And especially just kind of how it diffuses and finding your own favorite color combos. Oh, here, I thought I did this. So yeah, you can pick it up and you can allow gravity to direct where the pigment's going, where it might diffuse. And keep in mind that as you do this, as well as all the extra colors you might add into the water, less is more. So try to keep it as simple as possible. That usually lends for stronger and higher contrast results. So thank you guys so much for checking out this painting. I look forward to what you guys paint. And until next time, cheers.